Hey everyone, welcome back. Today's video is going to be showing you all the plugins I use and what order I use them in when I narrate an audiobook. If you want to elevate your audiobook narration to the next level and take some tips from me, this video is for you. So I'm here in Logic. Logic is the DAW that I personally use. If you use a different DAW, you can still use most of this information I'm going to give you. Every different DAW is going to have these plugins, and all the different knobs and stuff are going to be basically the same. So this is a good starting place no matter which DAW you use. Um, as you can see, the only 4 plugins I use are the Noise Gate, Compressor, Channel EQ, and Limiter. And I use them in a very particular order here. Obviously, there's no one right way to do things, but this is the way that's given me the best results. And it's probably a good starting place for you if you're looking for somewhere to start. Over here on the master bus, I also have a level meter, but we'll talk about it at the end because I don't use that until later. So my first plugin is the Noise Gate. And this is what it is. I'm not going to do a deep dive into each of these plugins. I can probably make a different video for all of them in the future, but I will kind of show you a quick overview of what I've done. So my threshold here is set to negative 39 decibels. The threshold is when the noise gate is going to kick in. So once the sound reaches negative 39 decibels, the noise gate will kick in. And this is always changing. A lot of times I'll set it at, negative 43. And maybe I should just change it there as my default, but right now it's at 39 and that works, a lot of the time. All of these work a lot of the time, but they're always going to need tweaking depending on, how loud you're narrating, what kind of audiobook it is, etc. The reduction is set to negative 61 decibels. If you pull this down to negative 100, it'll completely cut out all the noise. But I have it just reduced to negative 61, just to make it sound maybe a little more natural, to leave in, just a slight sound of my breaths instead of making it very robotic. The attack is going to be how long it takes for the noise gate to open back up when I go above the threshold. So this is going to take 6 milliseconds. I have it set really low just because I just want to cut out, something that happens right at the beginning of my sentences. If I go something like that, make a little noise, then this will help cut that out, but it's not going to cut off the first letter of my sentence. The hold and release kind of work together. The hold is how long after the threshold is reached does the noise gate take to kick in. So once I go below negative 39 decibels, it'll wait 70 milliseconds and then kick in the noise gate. And then the release along with that is how long it takes to reach that reduction point here. So, once I hit the threshold, it's going to wait 70 milliseconds and then, go down for 62.3 milliseconds as if you're turning the knob down. That's how long you're going to turn the knob down for it to reach that negative 61 decibels here. So this is a pretty good point. I use the noise gate first because I want to get rid of any noises before I elevate up all my sounds. A compressor and channel EQ and limiter are all going to raise the level of the noise. So if there's, breaths and stuff, having them still be in there is going to make them louder. So the first thing I do is to cut out the noise and the breaths and all that before going into, the next plugins. So the next plugin is going to be the compressor here. Logic has several different compressor options. I use the Vintage Opto because it kind of has a warmth to it that I really like. I set it to negative 32 decibels for the threshold. Just like the noise gate, that's when the compressor will kick in. The ratio is set to 3.9 to 1. So that means that whenever the compressor does kick in, it's going to lower the sound level by 3.9 decibels. Makeup is, you can add some extra gain in if if the compressor is making the sound quieter because you're lowering it so much, then you can add some gain here to make up the difference. I leave that because I make up the gain in other places later on, namely the limiter. The knee is set to 0.7, so that's kind of how hard the compressor hits, really. So, a bigger knee is going to give it kind of a softer hit, which I like for spoken word because you don't want it to be really harsh. And the attack and release work the same as the noise gate, so I set those pretty low here, and that works for me with the compressor. The next thing I use after I've compressed, and gotten all the noise levels where I want them to be, sound levels, is the channel EQ. Now that everything's kind of leveled out a little bit and we've cut out all the noises we don't want through the noise gate, we'll go and EQ the sound that's left. So at the low end here, I usually, this ranges from 75 to 85, depending on my preference that day, really. And this just gets rid of any remaining low end hum if there's, a fan outside my room that I forgot about, or, there's a car driving down the street. This will reduce that and get rid of that sound because there's nothing in my voice that I really need down at this level. As you can see on the graph as I talk, it really starts up here at, around 100, maybe 90 or so. So I like to raise up this low end a little bit to give my voice a good intonation. And then right here, I get rid of the kind of some nasally mid end that I have mid range. And then I boost up my higher end just a little bit to give it a nice little bit of color up top to kind of even out this low end here. And this is saved as a default for me, so this works for me generally pretty much all the time with maybe just a little tweaking, but my voice is, going to be the same no matter what. I'm not saying this is going to work for you because everybody's voice is different, especially if you're a female. These settings will probably not be what you want to use, but to get into what you should use would be another longer video, so we won't do that here, but I do use the channel EQ next. And the last thing I use is a limiter. I use this mostly to give me some gain. When I record my narration, I usually leave a good amount of headroom just in case I need it, and this is where I make up that space. I also set the output level at negative 3.1 decibels. That's because on Audible, they require you to have nothing above negative 3 decibels at the highest peaks. So if you're peaking above negative 3 decibels, they will knock it back to you and not accept it into their store. So by setting it at negative 3.1, I make sure that there's no peaks above that, and that's just a nice little trick. The last thing I do is use this level meter that's on the master track. This doesn't affect the tracks at all, so you can put it on the master track. It just lets you meter what's going on in your tracks. So as you can see, this just tells me how loud my tracks are. I have this little bar that you can use at negative 23 because Audible makes you have your sound files between negative 23 and negative 18 decibels. So by setting it there, once I'm going through and doing my last overview check of all of my edited sound files, I can see and make sure that it's above negative 23. And then I'll tweak the gain to kind of achieve that. So like right now, I'm not really hitting that negative 23 level. So I would probably raise this one, maybe 2 decibels. And as you can see now, I'm, consistently right here. I'm peaking at negative 19.7, negative 18.4 now, but it's staying right in that range, which is what you want. So that's what I do with that. And, as I'm going through and listening to my edited tracks to make sure there's no mistakes I missed or no words I missed, I will have this up at all times just to make sure that there's nothing peaking over -18, and it's not below -23. Um, and that's really all I use. You don't need to use a ton of plugins on here. It's just overkill and will reach a point where it just makes your recording sound worse. I used to use like 8 plugins, and it's my recordings sound leagues better now than they did before. The only one I would say could maybe be added to here, depending on who you are, is a de-esser, and that really depends on your microphone and your style of speaking. My microphone usually cuts down on that pretty well, and I don't have extremely strong S's to begin with, so I've just found that it's not really necessary to have it on my chain, but you might need it. If you want deeper dives into these plugins and how I use them and how you should use them, let me know and I can make videos for those. Um, but those will all probably need their own videos. But if you're looking for a place to start and just don't know what plugins to use to get good quality recordings, this is a good place to start. There's a lot of tweaking you can do. Different people have different approaches, but this is one approach that's worked for me personally, and I hope it works for you too. If you have any questions about this video, let me know in the comments. I'm always there reading, and I will always answer as soon as I see them. Make sure to like and subscribe, and if you like this video, stick around for more in the future. Thanks for watching.